Edge of anomaly research, you are about to experience the evidence with your host, 3D pioneer and image analyst with Mars X3D, D.W. Gannett.
Hi there. You have found us. We are the home of no-nonsense, cutting-edge Mars Anomalies, presented in stereographic X3D. We're the only channel of its kind, not only on YouTube, but throughout the world, as far as I know. In any case, this is your buddy Dave over at Mars X3D. Welcome back to all you proud weirdos. You know who you are. And to our newcomers, we're glad you're here. There is a price of admission. You have to pay attention. And you do have to learn the X3D viewing technique. Otherwise, the channel won't make any sense to you at all. The good news? There's a link down below where the average person can learn X3D viewing techniques in just a matter of a couple of minutes. We hope you'll take the time and take a look at those tutorials. In any case, we have some very interesting anomalies this week and a bunch of artifacts and something from good old planet Earth. We don't normally do that, nor do we normally cover UFOs. Oh, that's not hip. I'm supposed to say UAPs. In any case, we got one. Going to share it with you. And so enough talking. Let's go ahead and dive right in. We'll start out today with something a little bit different. This is from Secure Team 10. Taylor posted this recently. You can go to his channel and see it. But this is a UAP that was captured by a commercial airline passenger. And this thing shot by the airliner like a bullet. This is a single frame capture that I blew up, enhanced just a little bit, and rendered in X3D for your viewing pleasure. This looks an awful lot like what they called a sport model, what Bob Lazar said he was working on at S4 out at Groom Lake. But let's go on to Mars. For our first OOGI, or object of geological interest for today, here's something that researcher Sarah Runcie pointed out from Curiosity 907. Those are some very interesting shapes inside the square. Kind of looks like a garden gnome standing in back there. And the object in front of it, of course, has a pretty unusual shape. And as you can see, there are any number of blocks in this picture that have a pretty unusual shape for a geological process, but we're going to call it geology for now. Here's one I ran across in Percy 790 up there on the left. There must be some really unusual erosional processes up there on the surface of Mars. I mean, look at that little mouse hole so perfectly formed on the right, and of course the little perfectly round window at the top. One would be tempted to maybe think this was a dwelling of some kind, but we'll call it geology. My buddy Laszlo Shabalix figures pretty heavily in this episode, and he's been busy checking out things. This is from 3818 through 3820, a chem GMAC put together by Neville Thompson, and he found something interesting over there on the right. And by the way, Laszlo has the honor of leading off our artifact candidate series for this episode, and he has found a really nice lineup of 6 hexagonal blocks, all in a row. We know that certain minerals, like basalt, will harden into a 6-sided column, but basalt is igneous. It's formed by melting. This is a sedimentary rock. And this one is pointed out by the man himself, Neville Thompson, in the same ChemCam image from 3818, down there at the bottom left and right at the very edge of the image where things start to get kind of hazy. The fact that this is such a perfectly round 3-layer cake with that nice little hole dead center on the top tells me this is definitely an artifact candidate. But it's just too hazy, and so we're going to have to leave it in limbo as we move on. And before we leave this ChemCam image by Nifty, I ran across something there at the top that I want you to take a closer look at. This almost looks like a heavy artillery shell with carving on it. Kind of strange. Not only do you have a perfect cylinder, it would seem, with a symmetrical taper to the point on the right, you also have that ring around the back and a glint in the sunlight, which makes it appear to be metallic. Here's another one of Laszlo's finds from Percy 772. The shape of this one also is reminiscent of an artillery shell, and I was ready to dismiss it as geology, except for that split right down the center on the left side. I'm really not sure how that would happen in stone. And of course, there's more going on than meets the eye in this image. On the top arrow, look at the perfect 90-degree angle with the hole, the perfect hole in it. And coming down to the next arrow, again, 90-degree angles in 3 dimensions. And again, that piece in front that looks like a cylinder with carvings on it. In fact, I'm halfway tempted to think that if you picked this piece up vertically, that you would be looking at a cylinder with regular carving and regular horizontal lines reminiscent of a Sumerian cuneiform cylinder. Here's another unusual piece found by Laszlo in Curiosity 3815. When I look at the perfect smoothness of this piece as compared to the surrounding geology, its bilateral symmetry, the fact that it kind of looks like a plow blade, that's not what it is, but that's the general shape. And then that, again, a perfect circle on the right. This is an artifact candidate, but again, too far away and too fuzzy to make a clear call. My friend and sharp-eyed anomaly hunter Thomas Jensen picked this one out of the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter Image Gallery. We call it the MRO for short. And we have something unusual right at the very center of this image, taken from 185.7 miles above the Martian surface. Zooming in, we find an area slumped, filled with sedimentary rock, very large formation of sedimentary rock, and off to the right, inside the box, 4 blocks, perfectly shaped. Let's get a little bit closer. These blocks are a considerable distance from the slumped area. And as you look at them, you can see that they're very regularly shaped rectangular blocks. I mean, perfect right angles. And indeed, the one at the upper right almost appears to have a peaked roof on it. And did you notice above it the absolutely perfect stair-step 90-degree angles? And for those of you with an archaeologist's eye, this entire area here appears to be foundations and structures buried beneath the sand. And here's another compelling find by Thomas Jensen. I call him TJ. And again, we're at 185.7 miles above the Martian surface. So whatever this is, it's pretty good sized. That looks rather boat-like in appearance, nestled there at the bottom of a giant sand dune or ridge. And in fact, it looks a bit aerodynamic, doesn't it? Let's get even closer. So, what do you think? Is this a structure, an outpost of some kind? Is it a very, very large craft parked in the lee of the sand dune to protect the workers or pilots or whoever's in there from the prevailing wind on Mars? Regardless, this is another really compelling find by TJ. Okay, we have a pretty good list of artifacts, or what I consider to be artifacts, in this episode, and this first one was shared to us from Spirit 370 Pancam by one of our Facebook groups, contributors from Israel, Chaim. And this just goes to show you. Now, I can't make it any lighter than this. I tried adjusting the contrast. But what you have is a perfectly formed cube sitting on the surface. That's an artifact. It doesn't have to be complicated or stretch your imagination, anything like that. All you need are those non-fractal angles to tell you intelligent agency is at work. Of all the rovers, Percy in particular is sending back images with just tons and tons of structural blocks. In fact, so many that they're kind of prosaic and we kind of jump over them. But I'd like to share 3 that my friend Laszlo shared with us just recently. And this first one is from Percy 733 through 737 GMAC by Nefertiti. That's a beautiful block, and it's an artifact made by intelligent agency. I feel compelled to point out a couple things that Laszlo skipped over. On the upper left, another block with 90-degree angles in 3 dimensions. The block on the right also has 90-degree angles and what might possibly be carving on the left edge. And then down in front, that rounded block with the divot taken out of it in front of us and the cylindrical end and coming to a nice rounded area on the left. These things are not natural. Here's another block from Laszlo, this time from Percy 789. Again, nothing earth-shaking, but clearly an artifact. Again, 90-degree angles in 3 dimensions. Possible carving on the left side. Here's another Laszlo find sitting in plain sight from Curiosity 3819. Nothing fancy, just a perfectly formed rectangular block. No question about its artificiality. Here's a closer look at it before we move on to another find by Laszlo. Back to Percy again, this time Sol 692. There we have another fascinating block. And did you notice this? That almost looks like a set of wheels connected by an axle. Here's a really nice find by researcher Sarah Runcie from Curiosity 907. The first thing that catches the eye of most anomaly hunters is the rectangular block, but most unusual to have what appears to be something cylindrical coming off to the right. Let's get a little closer. So, is this a Martian bird bath? Is it a flower pot carved from stone? Look at the carving, and I know the acuity isn't what it should be, but look at the regular spaced decorations around the right edge. Look at the opening on the right. Look at the fluted pillar and the decorative line around the circumference of that. And then, of course, attached to that rectangular block. Let's take a look at it from a different perspective. Based on the assumptions that I just made, I've rotated the image to what would be vertical if this were installed, perhaps, on a building or a wall, and give you more of an idea of what this might possibly be. We'll wrap things up with another find by Laszlo Shabaliks, and good things do come in small packages. This one is from Curiosity 571, and it's down there right smack on the border like NASA usually does, and we're going to zoom in on it and see what we got. There's more in this image than meets the eye, and we will get to each of them in just a moment. Of course, our main interest is this beautiful bracket that Laszlo found, but we're going to take a quick look at a couple other items in this picture. Let me direct your attention to these couple of items in the upper left. Here is another clearly manufactured item or bracket or whatever it might be. And let me point out something that you may not have already noticed. It's in the shadow, but you can see a raised T shape on the surface of whatever this happens to be. I was about to dismiss this rock to the right until I noticed the perfectly rectangular carving in the top. So, looking at it with fresh eyes, it would seem that there's something like carving on the front of it. And finally, here's Laszlo's beautiful bracket, kind of sunk into the ground, perfectly symmetrical, stamped out of metal or shaped or cast, who knows. And I'm wondering if you saw this little detail. That looks like a little hinge, at least to me. This is a really just crystal clear, if not photographically, mathematically, a crystal clear artifact. Well, I guess that's a wrap for the day. Thanks for stopping by. And you know, there are a couple of people that I would like to mention and give a shout out to because of their help. And that would be Proud Weirdo First Class, Kevin Mulligan. Proud Weirdo First Class, Ian. Proud Weirdo First Class, Jay Liberty. Proud Weirdo Ascension Class, our very first one, our own, Mike Nelson. Thank you so much, fellas, for your support. You know, there's a lot of effort involved in creating these images, finding them, let alone creating them, and there is cost involved, and you are definitely a big help. Thank you so much. And by way of mentioning, there is a special project in the works this summer, and I hope to have it ready to publish the fall of 23, and that would be, and this is just a working title, Dave's giant book of 3D Mars anomalies. And trust me, it will be a giant book. It'll be, well, maybe hundreds. I don't know what it's going to end up being, but it's going to be a lot, and it'll be like nothing else that's been published before, except maybe my first book, Martian Archaeology. In any case, for those of you who would like to get behind these gentlemen and behind this channel, just click on the join button and find out what it's all about. Super easy, really inexpensive, less than 30 cents a day. I think it's even less than that, 10 cents a day. Good grief, what a deal. Anyway, here we go. Thanks for stopping by, and to all you proud weirdos out there, you know who you are. Stay safe and stay weird. This is your buddy Dave over at Mars X3D. Be well.